Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. It's June 16th, 2022, and this is a meeting of the Audit Committee. We've got a full complement today, so Mr. Monk, thank you for being with us, Commissioner Sacco. Before we move to adoption of the agenda, we do have a few brand new additions to our city family, both in audit and our finance department. So I wanted to give the auditor and the city manager an opportunity to introduce these new additions and welcome them into our organization. Ms. Bigby, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor Poe, Commissioner Sacco, and Committee Member Monk. I would like to introduce the new internal audit manager, Maria Mapahue. Maria, would you please come up? And she has a couple of words for introduction.
Welcome. That is not you. That is a brand new mic, and we are the guinea pigs for its effectiveness, so they will get it all sorted out. Welcome. We're so glad you're with us.
Thank you so much, Mayor Poe. Good afternoon, Mayor Poe and the Audit Committee members, and of course, attendee of these meetings. I just wanted to introduce myself briefly to the Audit Committee. As our City Auditor, Ginger Bigby, has already mentioned, my name is Maria Mapahue. I'm going to be one of the internal audit managers at the City Auditor's Office. It is certainly a great pleasure to be here and to be joining this awesome city of Gainesville. I previously worked with the City of Raleigh prior to joining the city. During the course of my career, I'm very proud to say that I've actually performed a lot of audits, whether or not it's been compliance type of audit, financial, operational, employee benefit plan types of audit. I'm very confident that as being part of this team, I'm definitely going to be able to not only collaboratively work with the organization and be a good auditor for the city of Gainesville. I certainly would like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to briefly introduce myself, and to end with this note that I certainly also look forward to working along with the Audit Committee and as a member of the City Auditor's Office, as our office continue to provide valuable service to the city of Gainesville. I'd like to hand over the mic and the podium back to the committee. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We're thrilled you're with us. That's such a critical function to the effectiveness of our organization, and your experience will be well served here. So welcome aboard, and we hope that you stay for a very long time. We hope you retire from the city of Gainesville. It would be a wonderful story. Well, thank you, Ms. Bigby, for allowing that opportunity and for bringing her into the organization. It sounds like a great fit. With that, we'll recognize the city manager for her introductions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the Audit Committee. I am pleased to be able to introduce Ms. Jennifer Lee Crocker, who is our new finance director as of Monday. Ms. Crocker, she'll come up for a few moments just to, do some further introductions, but she reigns from San Antonio, Texas. She and her family have moved to the city of Gainesville, and we are happy to have them. She is deeply credentialed, has deep experience in the finance area, not only academically, but in a governmental jurisdiction. And as our controller, we also have, starting on this past Monday, June 13th, Ms. Sue Wong. Ms. Wong reigns from the city of Gainesville. She was Jacksonville. She was the assistant comptroller there. She too has moved to the city of Gainesville, and they are both off and running. Ms. Claudia Rasnick and team from GRU have already started to pull them into the tasks that they need to be engaged in. Actually, they were engaged before they even started on June 13th, to be very honest with you. They were monitoring the audit meetings that happened earlier in the year while they were candidates. So they have been tracking, which is very interesting. I was very pleased with the deep knowledge that they already have. But at this time, Mr. Mayor, I am just very happy to introduce to you Ms. Jennifer Crocker, our new finance director, CPA.
Thank you, Ms. Curry. Ms. Crocker, absolutely thrilled that you're here, and welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. I am originally from Georgia, so moving back east feels great, feels natural, closer to family. I did get married in Gainesville over 30 years ago, so my husband is from the area and I have family here.
Wonderful.
But I do have over 13 years of experience in governmental finance, And I am a certified public accountant, a certified management accountant, and I also have my master's in business administration. So just excited to be here, really digging in, trying to learn the financial system, and plan on my approach is, building trust through transparency, getting things updated. I will say Ms. Resnick and her team have really already done a lot of work, so much appreciated. So if any individual meetings, please, I think communication is going to be key for everyone moving forward.
Well, we appreciate that, and I'd absolutely love to sit down and talk with you a little bit more as you settle in. So the manager will set that up. And did you work for the city of San Antonio when you were there?
I actually worked for the San Antonio River Authority, and I also worked for Texas A&M University.
Okay.
So the River Authority for 6 years and A&M for over 7 years.
Very good. Well, they have some great leadership there. That city has really done some incredible things in a variety of areas. I'm most familiar with their international department that works under the mayor's office, which is really best in class in the country.
Yes.
And then
Riverwalk is very popular.
Incredible, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And really a special place. And then the mayor of Texas, the mayor and president of Texas A&M are part of a small group that I've been meeting with since COVID, and some great leadership there as well. And so we're glad that you can bring some of that experience to Gainesville. You know the challenge ahead of you, but as you said, Ms. Resnick has been working as hard as she possibly can to try to get it in a position for you to take the reins, and we're glad that you're finally here and permanent and ready to get to work.
Yes, I'm excited to, lots of government experience at the River Authority. We had an elected board of directors that I presented to monthly, so I am accustomed to this process.
Very good. All right, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask Sue Wong to come forward. She is the controller, again, CPA. And I'd also like to just make a comment before Ms. Wong comes up to acknowledge the staff in the finance department for the hard work that they have done and continue to do. They are stronger, and I'm proud of them. And with that, Ms. Wong.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. I'm sure finance is quite happy to get some reinforcements on board.
My name is Sue Wong. I am a CPA. I'm a certified public finance officer. So I came to the public sector from Caterpillar. I can tell you I will never go back. I am passionate about public service, as everybody here is. I worked my way up, hired in as accountant, so I am familiar with every aspect of the government accounting and government finance. So I'm excited to be here. We really love this city. We feel like it has a very good energy. I don't have anything else to say other than I feel as Ms. Curry said, we have a good group of people here in the finance department. So I am ready to get to work.
Excellent.
So thank you.
Thank you all three for joining our organization, and I know that you're going to add great value. It sounds like you've already jumped in feet first, and so we expect to hear great things in these quarterly reports and updates. So thank you very much. With that, we do have an agenda to adopt. Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the agenda.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. First order of business, approval of minutes from April 20th. Is there a motion to approve? Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. So our first discussion item today is the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Data Exchange Compliance Audit. Ms. Bigby.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner Sacco, and Committee Member Monk. I'd like to introduce IT Audit Manager Ryan Timmons, who will present the Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicle Data Exchange Compliance Audit and results.
Mr. Timmons, welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Poe, committee members, good afternoon. So I'm here to brief you on the Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicles Data Exchange Audit that the city has with the state of Florida. You can go to the next slide. June 1st, we just wrapped up the audit. The city and the Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicles have a memorandum of understanding with one another that both parties agree to exchange city employees' driver's license data. The reason for this is the Highway Safety Motor Vehicles requires the city to submit an internal control and data security audit on or before the anniversary of the MOU, and this must be done every 2 years. So we'll do this audit every 2 years. This MOU was executed on August 31st of 2021. You can go to the next one. In order to comply with our insurance policy for city-owned vehicles, the Federal Transit Administration and the Department of Transportation regulations, employees' driver's license are reviewed annually, and commercial driver's license are reviewed every 6 months to ensure that our drivers don't have suspended or revoked licenses. This process would typically take a lot of time if you were to run each person individually. So to save time, they developed an application to run it as an entire batch. And as you can see in this figure, how that works is risk management, David Jarvis, they get a list of employees from our ERP system. They then take that information and they run it through our internal application, which then transmits that over to the state of Florida. Then they send us back a report, which comes through our application once again, and then we review that report to see if there's any suspensions or revoked licenses. You can go to the next slide. Through the audit scope and methodology, we performed this through inquiry, observation, and substantive testing. We looked at legal, regulatory processes and procedures. We also looked at IT and application processes and procedures and controls. The MOU consisted of a statement of work that both parties have to agree to, along with Section 5 of the MOU, which was safeguarding information. Specifically, we were looking at control requirements and meeting the statement of work requirements in the MOU. There were 18 specific items that we tested, which are on page 5 of the public audit report. You can go to the next slide. Some of those were security policies and procedures, business continuity plans, disaster recovery. We looked at physical and logical security, data encryption, and user access control, along with periodic monitoring and device inventory. And you go to the next slide. Based on the results of the engagement, we did determine that the City of Gainesville does comply with the MOU and that no exceptions were noted. Part of this is because before we submit the report to the state, it has to be a clean report. They won't accept a report that has issues. So throughout the audit, we did notice there were some procedural issues that were remediated before the creation of the report. Other than that, we did note during the engagement through the communication with the Risk Management Office that they have not been able to successfully run the driver's license report since the implementation of the new ERP system in July of 2021. It doesn't have any issue or in compliance with the MOU. However, it does increase the city's risk that the data exchange program objectives will not be met, or issues with the data exchange processes would not be identified or resolved in a timely manner. We did discuss this with the responsible party in risk management, and they are aware and will continue to monitor that on our ongoing enterprise risk assessment. Any questions for me?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Timmons. So about the last point then, it sounds to me like that is one of many issues that we've had with the conversion to Workday, and that there ultimately will be a solution to where we can get back to sort of standard operating procedure of running the batch, but we're just having to figure out that process as we transition?
According to Mr. Jarvis, they need to be able to extract a list of employees from the new system, and that's what he's been currently working with the Workday team to do. But as of this time, they haven't been able to address that yet. So.
Okay. It sounds like that's something that we should be able to do, though? That we would be able to get a list of employees from our system? Okay, the city manager is behind you saying yes, so you're off the hook there, Mr. And I guess it would be important to have this by the time ultimately the next report is due. We'd like it before then so we could run this whenever we felt a need to, especially it sounds like on that 6-month rotating verification, but ultimately it really needs to be in place by the time the next round comes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have any further questions. If anybody on the committee does, I would just ask that we be kept updated on the progress of that particular potential risk. And I think hopefully with good news at some point that it's been resolved and we're back to sort of business as usual. Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Timmons, one question. You said that we don't have findings because the state won't accept it, so we kind of remediate those as we go through. How many of those were there?
So-
And I guess the gravity of them.
Yes. So they did this audit about 1.5 years ago, and in that audit they identified 11 issues. I confirmed that since then that all of those issues had been remediated. The only issues that I saw or find that I needed to communicate with management were procedures. One was in a timely manner of notifying the state if we have a breach of data or a loss of data or any time that the information wasn't secure. And risk management promptly put a plan together with cyber security to address that procedure. So they now have that in place.
So now we are squeaky clean.
I'm sorry?
Now we are squeaky clean, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. But with that, I would like to move that we recommend the report to the full commission.
Okay, motion and a second that we accept the report and forward it to the full commission for their consideration. Again, Mr. Timmons, thank you for your participation in this. Do we have anybody here to speak to this item? All right, then back to the committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have internal control follow-up with GRU, Deer Haven Generating Station theft, an issue that's not a new one. Ms. Bigg.
Thank you, Mayor Poe, Commissioner Sacco, and Committee Member Monk. The purpose of this memo is to present the results of our advisory service internal control follow-up following a 2021 theft at the Deer Haven plant. And I'll just give Marie just a second to pull up her slides. No pressure, Marie. Next slide, please. And one more. For a reminder for our neighbors, the Deer Haven Generating Station began commercial operations in 1972, and today it's been recognized as one of Florida's most efficient and economical power generating stations. A little bit of background on the theft of equipment. In late July 2021, Deer Haven was made aware of the theft of equipment from the Deer Haven plant. The GPD, Gainesville Police Department, conducted an investigation at that time in collaboration with Columbia County Sheriff's Office and the State Attorney's Office. They searched the suspect's home on July 29th, 2021, and recovered some stolen items, many of which were GRU items, and subsequently arrested a prior GRU employee for grand theft. The employee was working as a control specialist at the Deer Haven plant. Law enforcement discovered the suspect sold a small amount of equipment through online marketplaces, while much of the equipment was recovered from the suspect's home. The recovered equipment belonging to GRU was returned to GRU in May 2022 of this year. Initially, the law enforcement discussion with GRU staff at the time of the seizure of property, they estimated the value of around $200,000 for the equipment. Subsequently, once management received the return of the items, they estimated the value around $59,000. Some of the material was not usable, some of it didn't belong to GRU. We were not able to audit either of those numbers, so just wanted to give you those estimates. And then the total number of items that the suspect sold online could not be determined, the total number or the total value. And then the case numbers are in the report if you'd like to see that. Next slide. Oh, that's fine. Risk number 1. So our May 31st, 2022, we went in to perform a final internal control follow-through, and we observed a cycle count. And the reason why we didn't issue a public report before that is we wanted to make sure that controls were sufficiently secure before everyone knew that this was a vulnerability. You want to fix the vulnerability first. So the first risk that we looked at was the storage of non-inventoried electronic equipment within the Deer Haven administration building, which was a large part of what the suspect, what the convicted person actually took. During our walkthrough, we discovered that there are no loose items. Everything has been moved to a controlled room in the warehouse and has been added to the inventory. So even if it's a non-inventoried item, it's still in the tracking system. Risk number 2, storage of other non-inventoried equipment other than electronic equipment in various warehouses on the property with open entries and easier access. And additionally, another risk is that funds may be expended for repairs if you can't find those items. If they're not listed anywhere and they're usable, but you can't find or locate them, you may end up purchasing more items or delay putting them in service. Management made significant progress in working through those items, placing them in areas where they're probably better, easier to use. Some of those went to other locations, some got placed in the warehouse and were added to inventory, and there was only a small number of items that are left in those open warehouses, and often they need a forklift to be moved, or there's some work in progress where they're just being used at that current time. So we felt that overall, management of those electronic pieces and the pieces in the warehouse were substantially addressed and were no longer a significant threat for the generating plant. Risk number 3 was tested in the badge and key access, which issues were confidential, and those issues are still in progress of remediation. We did look at that though while we were there, and we felt like there were improvements for physical access. I have here inquiry and review of documents, but we also observed the improved physical access controls, so we didn't feel like there was any additional risk there. That appears to be addressed, and it will also be looked at in our cybersecurity audit, which is in progress right now. And then the final overall risk of non-inventoried equipment, the way we wanted to address that risk was to observe a cycle count. So during our cycle count, we had the warehouse manager print a cycle count, and they were unable to locate the items because the shelving itself had been changed, the shelving numbering system. So the auditors picked 15 items judgmentally. We had him pull the report. All the items were located where they were supposed to be, but we did have 2 discrepancies, which are listed in the slides and in the report. So one discrepancy, the 10-foot cord for the sump pump was explained. It had been checked out, and they just had not processed the checkout paper from the prior weekend. I believe we were there on a Monday, and it had been checked out that weekend. The second piece is a slip. I believe that's the flange, 150 pound. 5 items were observed on hand, but the inventory said there should be 6. So management at the time we wrote this was still researching the reason why that discrepancy was there. And then overall, we encourage management to continue their cycle counts, but until the cycle counts are consistently accurate, senior management might want to do periodic checks, perform a physical count. When they do their regular inventory, they might want to add the non-inventoried pieces. And then overall, based on our internal control review, we do feel like the internal control environment has substantially been strengthened to mitigate the risk of fraud, waste, and abuse. And we have Mr. Dino DeLeo here to answer any questions, or if there's anything I can answer.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Bigby. Mr. Cunningham or DeLeo, anything you'd like to add? Okay. So it sounds like just one sort of outstanding opportunity, which is the sort of regular, investigation of the cycle counts and making sure those are consistent over time. And after several rounds of that, if it turns out that everything is accounted for, then we can be pretty confident that the systems are in place to prevent anything from happening like we saw a couple of years ago. Is that right? Okay, any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you for the report. The recommendation is to forward it to the commission for their consideration. Is there a motion to that effect?
Sure. Second.
Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak to that motion? All right, all in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed? That motion passes. Okay, up next, we have the Gainesville Community Reinvestment Area Project Fiscal Management Audit. Ms. Bigby?
Assistant City Auditor, and Diana Ferguson Satterthwaite, Senior Auditor, present the GCRA audit report and results.
Okay, thank you. Welcome both. Appreciate your service to this report.
Yes. Hi, I'm Brecca Anderson, Assistant City Auditor. Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Committee Member Monk. So glad to be here, and Diana is here with us as well. We are here to present the GCRA Project and Fiscal Management Audit today. And we just would like to start off by thanking the City Manager's Office staff and the GCRA management and staff and for their professionalism and their cooperation during the engagement. It made it so much easier. Everyone was helpful with providing information as they could. And so I'm going to turn it over to Diana. She's going to start off.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. I will start off by just giving a background information relating to GCRA project management, governance, and fiscal management. And Assistant City Auditor Brecca Anderson will provide additional background information. So, why did we do this audit? Well, our objective for this audit was to review policies, procedures, and internal controls relating to project management activities to ensure effective and efficient operations and transparent management of GCRA funds and reporting. The scope for the audits included an assessment of project and physical management controls, and we covered the period October 1st, 2019 through to February 28, 2022. Next slide, please. Oh, if you're following on your detailed report on the left-hand corner, the page numbers where we are beginning for each slide is there. The Gainesville Community Redevelopment Area which was a statutory agency, transitioned to the Gainesville Community Reinvestment Area, which is a city department on October 1st, 2019. The city partnered with Alachua County and entered into an interlocal agreement regarding community development to restructure the CRA to the GCRA. Initially, there were 4 districts, and as a part of this restructuring, it was consolidated into a single district, which is the GCRA. The mission of the GCRA is to invest in previously underserved areas of Gainesville, revitalize the urban core, improve the quality of life of our neighbors, and support our local economy, notably our small, local, and diverse businesses. Next slide, please. The GCRA team reports, through its director, reports to the city manager and is governed by the city, county, and commission, and they're guided by an advisory board. GCRA seeks to achieve its mission through investing in community partnerships, providing competitive economic development incentives, and improving public infrastructure. After becoming a CRA, the GCRA developed a 10-year investment plan, and this plan functioned as the project roadmap for the GCRA's redevelopment activities over the next 10 years. The GCRA, in developing this plan, had consultations with communities. The plan focuses on 3 areas: economic development, community enhancement, and improving public spaces and streetscapes. Next slide, please. And this is a pictorial representation of the plan. During our audit, we sampled 9 projects and programs, and they're depicted by the red asterisks. Next, please. Thank you. In terms of governance, policies and procedures are essential for governance control. They're needed to guide and manage operations and ensure that activities are carried out in a consistent and efficient manner. They should be documented to communicate department purposes, identify key roles and responsibility, and establish oversight and reporting. Controls that support identifying conflicts of interest are also crucial to strong governance, and these are addressed in Florida statutes. Next slide, please. Okay, so the GCRA is funded by fixed contributions from the city and the county. The city's contribution is fixed at approximately $3.3 million annually. The county contribution starts out initially at $4.2 million, and it's reduced by, as you can see there, about $100,000 until it matches the cities. Fiscal management is really essential to ensure that the GCRA can complete the projects in its plan by the sunset. GCRA has established a budget for the last 2 fiscal years. However, costs are not forecast for all projects in the plan to ensure that there is adequate funds to complete all projects. GCRA allocates funds annually to projects, and they sometimes move funds between projects as management deems necessary. To reduce the risk of overspending, it is important that management establish the actual costs for projects to ensure that projects and programs in the plans are funded accordingly. Other issues related to fiscal management will be discussed further in the report, and Assistant City Auditor Rebecca Anderson will continue from here. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, all right, so we're gonna talk about project management. I think one thing I'd like to kind of highlight, if we could go back to that slide, sorry, Marie, is just for anyone who's not familiar, is that the CRA was funded by tax increment funding, which was the TIF funds, commonly known as TIF funds previously, and of course you guys are familiar with that because you oversaw the process of it becoming a city department, which is now contributions directly from the city and county. There are TIF funds remaining that are in separate funding to be spent in those districts that they were allocated to in the first place. Okay, I just wanted to highlight that. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to talk about project management. Project management processes and controls are essential to ensure that projects and programs are managed properly. The GCRA leads or support projects and programs with some pretty high dollar budgets, but did not maintain procedures to guide specific project management activities. Frameworks such as the Project Management Institute's, it's called PMBOK, the body of knowledge, has a project management process that they have developed that is tried and true, and it has project management steps for success. The common critical tasks in those stages are project initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. All right, you can see some of these processes of project management on figure 6. If you're looking in the report, it's on page 11. You can actually go to the next page, please. Next slide. You'll see them there. Project initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and project closing. You can leave it there. Thank you so much. To achieve our audit, we spent time, we got a chance to sit down, spend time with the GCRA staff. We looked at their records. We looked at the fiscal support, conducted a lot of analysis, and just to try to understand the processes. And so we actually utilized the framework that you have there to determine the processes, the internal controls around those processes. Of the projects included in the 10-year plan, we did review 9 projects to determine the level of controls around project management. As a kind of a highlight summary to start off, for initiation, if you kind of look at those phases there, we did find that the projects were generally initiated properly, meaning they started off really well, and which kind of includes the project assignments and identifying stakeholders. We did see that. For project planning, since becoming a city department, the GCRA developed timelines. You may have seen that in some of your past reports, which was kind of called the Gantt chart. I have a project timeline for each of the projects that were on the plan. However, there just weren't any milestones. They are utilized, the milestones are utilized to kind of say we need to have this done by this point, by that point. I think we're familiar with milestones. They were not consistently created for all of for the projects that we sampled for proper tracking. And project budgets were based on costs are not established for the entire project or program. It's typically for a year or two. For the project execution, monitoring, and control, we looked at that. Some project management tools were developed. We did find those, and they were put in place for leading a project and monitoring the different projects, but the tools were not used consistently and did not include milestone tracking. So there were some project lapses observed, and we're going to talk about that a little later. Some time lapses, sometimes where there was no activity in projects, and we do have that highlighted later on in the audit. And they were the result of various causes, which we'll talk about. Project closing, none of the projects that we sampled were completed or closed during the audit scope period, so we didn't get a chance to kind of assess how well that occurred. All right, can we go to slide 10? Thank you. We also looked at reporting. The city holds a joint meeting with the county each year and to present the GCRA annual work plan, which is required by interlocal agreement. The GCRA also provides information to stakeholders through project presentations at the public board meetings and on the GCRA website. The GCRA does not currently have a dashboard, which would really aid with transparency in providing key information and program information, including the key fields mentioned above. Next slide, please. Okay. We're going to get into results and conclusions, but I do want to highlight something. During the time we got to spend with the folks at the GCRA, we did identify some notable accomplishments, which we did highlight in the report. Since becoming a city department, like the timeline has been established. It's in the report, excuse me. Notable accomplishments are on page 8 of the report. We're just kind of highlighting some of the good things that the folks at the GCRA have done. Like the Hardwood model home has been built, and 11 home buyers are participating in the Dreams to Reality program. They were under contract at the end of our review. And we have some additional notable accomplishments there. Okay, results and conclusions. Okay, of the 9 projects that we reviewed, we did find opportunities for improvement. Controls did exist, but we did find these opportunities. First, in the fiscal management. So let's go to the next slide, please. This is issue 1, project and fiscal management. Okay. We did look at the sample of 9 projects, and we reviewed the project and fiscal management processes and controls. Some of the opportunities, the first one I'd like to talk about is fiscal management. Fiscal management of GCRA projects and programs requires strengthening to ensure that GCRA achieves its objectives. Diana talked about it a little bit, making sure we're forecasting out to make sure we have the funds available to finish the projects. We know the interlocal agreement over community redevelopment, which is between the city and the county. It specified the fixed amounts that Diana just discussed. And then we have the 10-year sunset of the GCRA. We noted that total project costs were not forecasted for all projects and programs in the 10-year plan to ensure the funding will be sufficient. We also noted that some GCRA funds were moved between projects to fund projects or programs with little or no activity that was shown during that period. Movement of funds should follow a disciplined approach where funds are moved to the primary account and drawn down as needed. And surplus funds should remain in the primary account. Total expenditures incurred are not tracked for some projects and programs. Most project tracking include project expenditures for about a 2-year period. Okay, we know that during the project planning, we don't have a consistent establishment of key milestones or a total project budget, like for the whole project, even if the project began before the GCRA became the GCRA. At the end of our review, staff had begun the process of creating project forecasting through the end of the GCRA 10-year plan. All right. We know that project execution and monitoring and control are essential to ensure that a project or program is adequately budgeted, progresses on schedule according to timelines and milestones, and work is directly tied to the scope of work. Okay, we did see some challenges with some of the 9 projects that we reviewed. Just the historic heritage trail was one. There were periods of unexplained lapse between 2014 and 2017, and efforts to obtain and maintain a contractor to assist with the project has been unsuccessful over the last 3 years. There's been several RFQs moving forward, so there has been efforts in that period. The Porters and Pleasant Street Model Block Housing, which is called Model Block and Attainable Housing Strategies project, started in 2017, and I failed to say Historic Heritage Trail started in 2009. Porters and Pleasant Street Model Block Housing project became a CRA-led project in 2017, but no homes have been built on the 2 lots identified for redevelopment. The concept drawings were developed in 2018. However, they are revisiting with another round of community engagement. For hardwood, hardwood's been around for quite a while as well, 2008. We didn't see a lot of periods of inactivity. There was constantly some activity moving forward with hardwood. So we know it used to be called Kennedy Homes Project. The most recent delays resulted from increasing construction costs. So what we found is that there were 4 showcase homes executed purchase and sale agreements pretty soon after we went on the market with that. August and September of 2021. Okay, but when the first showcase buyer received the construction bid, the bid for the construction costs, which exceeded the cost for the entire home and lot. So of course, those 4 folks, they dropped out for that. Okay, so those showcase homes are still in the works. The Dreams to Reality homes, however, we're glad to say that they're moving forward with permitting and probably beyond that phase at this point, because that was a couple of weeks ago. Economic Development Finance Programs, that project had been put on hold as staff had a chance to review and redevelop the project. So it's been on hold for a couple of years. We have had some staff shortages in that area, and so the fiscal liaison also oversaw this project and was handling a lot more fiscal duties at that time. The Power District Redevelopment Project began in 2011, transitioned to CAPER in 2020, and then to GCRA in 2022. Funding opportunities and leadership direction is needed to move forward with this project. And then we have the 2 capital improvement projects, Waldo and Williston Road Corridor and Southwest 2nd Avenue improvements. The GCRA did not have a construction manager, a CIP manager, at that time for about a year. And so they did delay it. And then also some of these projects are contingent upon some of the other developments like 8th Avenue and Waldo Road and Southwest 4th. So those are some of the delays we're realizing there. Reporting, all right. Let's keep it right there. I'm actually there on the 5th bullet. The information included on page 3 of the GCRA Fiscal Year 2020 Annual Report on Diverse and Local Spending contained inaccuracies. What we saw is that management included payments made under the CARES Act grant program. They included it in vendor spending inadvertently. 32 of the 39 small vendors listed in the analysis were actually recipients of the grant program rather than vendors. Okay? And we also saw some other inaccuracies, such as some vendors were counted more than once. The reinvestment plan requires that the City Commission adopt a reinvestment plan to guide community redevelopment within the GCRA and include a minimum amount of information. There were just a couple of pieces of information that weren't included in there, which could actually have aided with this process, such as visuals and descriptions and general terms of the building height, building size, all of that, and then a detailed statement of the projected costs of the redevelopment. We did see opportunities for additional transparency in reporting. We had an opportunity to see some other cities that have dashboards. So we did provide some of those in our appendix, just some examples that could provide some key information to the public and to management. Okay, and the last thing on this issue is communication. In 2021, a 5-part GCRA board recommendation regarding the Power District was not moved forward to the commission due to unclear project direction. It was not clear which management team would handle the recommendation. This was around the time that they were getting moved back and forth, so they weren't clear. Okay, so we are seeing some of the causes here, some of the things I just talked about, including there's no formal management software or process, and there were frequent project management changes. Of course, we know the pandemic, transitioning to the city department, and I could go on and on and on with some of the challenges that's been faced. Okay, if you could go to the next slide. Okay, this is the This is management's action plan. We did provide a recommendation. So management has provided their action plan, that they are answering to the recommendation, and that they're going to work, the city manager's office is going to work with the GCRA to enhance these internal controls we just talked about over governance and project management. Next slide, please. Over project fiscal management, and then of course tools, identifying tools, looking forward, sounds like looking forward, looking more toward a centralized tool under the auspice of the city manager's office, and policies and procedures, enhancing policies and procedures over project management. Next slide, please. Okay, issue 2, these are going to be quick. Policies and procedures. The GCRA policies and procedures do not document project management expectations and do not include key roles and responsibilities for managing and monitoring GCRA activities. Next slide. Okay, this is the issue number 2, management action plan. GCRA will work with management to develop and document policies, procedures, and guidelines, and it's listed there in which areas they're going to focus, which mirror our recommendation. Okay, next slide. Issue 3, management and monitoring of conflicts of interest. Previously, our office recommended process improvements related to managing actual or perceived conflicts of interest, and they were not established. Management should establish those internal controls to ensure that any perceived conflicts of interest are disclosed. Management has started that process and is working on that. Next slide, please. Okay. All right, this is the management action plan. As part of the audit work, this issue was identified and partially addressed by the GCRA during the audit. And management will work to develop steps to ensure any conflicts are appropriately managed. Okay, and that's the end of the GCRA report. Any questions? Or?
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I appreciate that. Ms. Bigby, anything you wanted to add at this point? Good. Madam Manager, anything you wanted to add at this point?
No, sir. The report, we've reviewed it. We agree. We obviously have responded with our management action plan. As you know, the GCRA is under construction in terms of a new organization that will be presented to the commission. As soon as we are done with that, we are in conversations right now, with internal staff. But during the budget process, the GCRA budget is a part of that, and we will be coming back to the commission with our new structure.
Okay, thank you. And so real quick, while you're here, item 2 and item 3, or issue 2 and 3, are expected to be closed out by the end of October and the beginning of December, so relatively soon. Issue 1 is the more complex finding, and I think that's more what you were just referring to. When do you expect, and I won't hold you to a firm date, but when do you expect to get that back before the commission so we can see the sort of scope of the solution that
I
you
would
all
say
come up with?
probably beginning of the fiscal year, October 1.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Graves, sorry. Gonna give you whiplash. So as the mayor said, I know that we're under construction for GCRA and that we're not gonna hold you to any dates. However, on issue 1, have any improvements or changes been made? Or are you just waiting to build from the ground up?
We're waiting to build from the ground up. As you know, the director has resigned. We have an interim person in that position. It's actually Mr. Phil Mann. That is not his area. However, in the interim, knowing that this audit was in play, we wanted to be able to see it through and obviously use the issues that have been raised as a part of how we move forward in trying to address the organization going forward. But we're on top of it.
As far as for the projects that are still live, how are those continuing, or?
Really, many of them are in hold, with the exception of the larger projects like, 8th and Waldo or the Power District. Clearly, they are on hold. But some of the smaller community development, housing-related programs are very active. You've heard about many of those programs, in the GCRA's report to the commission. There will be one on the agenda tomorrow in terms of the Historical Home Stabilization Program. So those programs are very active. They are actually being utilized by the public. The AIRS program is one of them. Our AIRS property program is one of them. So on that side of the house, in terms of the smaller, more neighborhood-focused programs, they are very active, and the community is being made aware of them throughout our affordable housing workshops. But I will also add that on the housing side of things, because we are looking to consolidate much of our housing programming around the city, it's kind of spread out amongst 2 or 3 departments. We were in conversations with Ms. Deal yesterday with the GCRA about moving the programs into a general housing structure that will have all of the housing programs from GCRA, HCD, and any others under one umbrella. So again, back to your question, there is ongoing progress with some of the smaller, more neighborhood-focused programs. The larger programs really and truly are on hold.
Thank you. And I assume that for those smaller ones, as far as data tracking and keeping that information, because it's less complex, so to speak, that we wouldn't necessarily have any issues, I guess, tracking that data or the finances of it or the movement of the projects. That's much simpler, and we have it.
That is correct. I'm going to hold on any more specifics regarding the larger ones because, you know,
Yeah, understood.
We're working on that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Monk?
I guess this is, excuse me, as much for Ginger as anyone, but when will the next audit be planned to follow up on these issues?
Thank you, Mayor Poe, Commissioner Sacco, and Committee Member Monk. The audit follow-up is not a separate project that we schedule. We actually follow up on all of the issues when the due date comes due. If management cannot meet their due date, we report it to you in the quarterly auditor update that their issues are past due. So when the issues are due, we ask management if they're ready. We go in and do our validation testing, document that in our validation work papers, close the issue if applicable, or report the issue as open or past due, whatever the case is, in the quarterly update. And we'll have the audit issue follow-up program coming up in the quarterly update if you'd like some more detail of that program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Madam Manager, if you can just sort of keep us apprised of, I mean, you gave us a prospective date of October 1st. If you'll just work with me on scheduling that both for this committee as part of the follow-up, but also the commission. You know, I think there's obviously a lot of interest in the GCRA represents a significant opportunity because it doesn't have some of the restrictions that other funds do. And it also represents some urgency because it's a sunsetted revenue fund. So I know that this commission, as well as future commissions, will be very interested in knowing that we have a plan and a team in place to make sure that we maximize the use of those funds in a way that's going to have the most significant impact on our community. And I know it's been frustrating for all of us that we've been in this period of transition where we haven't been able to sort of move along with the focus and urgency that we're used to. Some of that, and I've shared this with you, but I'm gonna share it with my colleagues up here as well. We had a very well-defined and well-established governance model under the previous iteration of the CRA. That it was a separate board. We had monthly meetings. It was there was a system in place. When it transitioned to a city department, just like Parks, Recreation, Cultural Affairs, or Human Resources doesn't come to the commission on a regular basis and report and get approval for things. It sort of changed how the role the commission has in oversight of that, as well as management and you know, how it worked as a department versus a separate enterprise fund. You know, I think it's just so critical that we get that new system in place, and we all understand how it's going to work, because the clock is ticking, you know, and we really want to leverage those funds to the maximum benefit for our community before it disappears. So that's an editorial comment, but it's close to October 1st. I mean, I would very much be happy to see that on our first regular city commission meeting in October, if possible, and if not, just let me know, and we'll figure out what we need to do to get it there as soon as we can.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the Audit Committee, just as we have, you know, moved forward deliberately with the Finance Department, you know, to move it, you know, into a more improved state, we'll do the same thing with the GCRA. And in addition to keeping you and other members of the Commission and Audit Committee, of course, informed about how we're tracking, we will do the same thing with the county, because they are, of course, a partnership in this as well.
Perfect, thank you. I don't know who this is for, so you might want to stay up, Commissioner Sacco.
Oh, no, it was just for motion.
Okay,
Still have
oh,
it.
go ahead, yeah.
I move that we approve and recommend the report to the full commission.
Okay, motion and second that we forward the report to the full commission for their consideration. Members of the public wish to speak to this item? Okay, back to the commission. All in favor say aye. So yeah, go ahead, and if you, we're not doing sign up at this meeting because there's not too many folks here, so just pop up when you want to speak. Go ahead.
Okay. I didn't want to rush the podium, but someone else might want to comment. My name is Brian K. O'Brien, for the record. I've come from a long ways away to be here today to talk to the Audit Committee. I'm not surprised by the findings in the GCRA project and fiscal management audit. Once again, your city auditor, Ms. Bigby, has done an excellent job of getting into the guts of the city department. And I'd like to thank Ms. Anderson, Ms. Satterthwaite. I love your accent, but I had the fortune of being a general contractor for 40 years, and I was educated here across the street. And you know, these essentially are the backbone of our work on the office side. And the reason I'm not surprised is that
The housing market has been super competitive.
This report just details what we've known for years. This department, the citizens may not recall, but Mr. Poe says it was very well defined and well established. Well, that's possibly true until you took it over and transmogrified it into a city department. Now the department is run just like the rest of the city. And the idea that it was only your finance department that had all kinds of problems is just sheer baloney. The findings, everybody heard them. None of the projects were completed during the audit period, which was 2 or 3 years. None of the reviewed projects included status reports for total project budgets for expenditures. The county is funding a portion of these projects. Now, I think this report should be forwarded to the county, and that Ken Cornell and his group should have a chance to discuss this. This is not new. This is not something created by a pandemic or immediate staff shortages. This has been going on for years, and it's got to come under control. And I'm so tickled to have Commissioner Sacco and Mr. Monk here to possibly, you know, realize that every time that these issues are brought to your attention, sir, you come up with some nonsense and
Thank you,
roll
Mr.
off
O'Brien.
of it.
Thank you.
and act like there's nothing wrong.
Appreciate you being here today and
Absolutely.
taking the time to come so far to
Need to
be with
react.
us. Thank you. And you too, sir, have a lovely accent. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Anybody else to speak to this item? Okay, the motion is to forward this to the full commission. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Up next, we have the quarterly update. Madam Auditor.
Thank you, Mayor Poe, Audit Committee members. I think I'll just stay up here. We have various team members speaking to these slides, and we'll try to finish it up as briefly as we can. So in our City Auditor Quarterly Update, we'd like to give you status of all the audit activities that are ongoing. Next slide, please. And next slide. One more, please. We added this slide as a reminder of the strategic plan. The charter officers worked with the city commission to determine our focus areas. So this slide just reminds us of the city's goals, and the yellow blocks are the focus areas. Our resources are focused on organizational culture, technology upgrades, employee vacancies, and the general government financial services. So as we're doing our audit work, we want to make sure that we are supporting those goals and those focus areas. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. We have one request for an add to the audit plan. And we're asking the audit committee recommend the city commission approve one additional audit. I'm going to ask Ms. Ferguson Satterthwaite to give you a very brief update on this request for the add to the audit plan.
Good afternoon again. For this RTS targeted audit, our objective is to review internal controls around incident reporting and follow-up. We are currently just in pre-planning. We have started preliminary conversations with management, and during the audit we will be having more interviews, and we will be reviewing data relating to accidents and incidents. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And I wanted to add that Ms. Ferguson Satterthwaite did an excellent job on a fraud hotline complaint where no wrongdoing was found, but we did identify some opportunities for data analysis to see if there are any trends that we would want to address with management. So that is how this audit came to be requested.
Great.
Next slide, please. And all right, I think our IT audit manager and his partner had to step out for a house closing, so I will take his slide and do the best that I can. The cybersecurity audit, we did a governance cybersecurity review a couple of years ago to start with the governance structure. We had a number of findings. Management has already implemented those suggestions, those recommendations. Now we are in progress of our cybersecurity audit phase 2. That's not the end of the road, so we're doing small bits at a time as management's maturity increases and as they have resources to address recommendations. So this audit is in progress, and we want to provide an independent assessment of management's ability to address cybersecurity risk. Are there any questions on that one? Okay. Next slide, please. Continuous auditing, we're just getting started. Our new audit manager will help spearhead this effort. We want to build a continuous monitoring project to address financial transactions for fraud risk as we're rebuilding our financial department and making sure things aren't slipping through the cracks. Once we do probably 4 or 3 micro reports and 1 annual report after 4 quarters, we'll determine management's strength in the internal control follow-up area. If they build out a strong internal control program by that time, we can discontinue the continuous auditing project. But for now, we're combining 3 projects that we had on the audit plan: P-cards, travel expense and reimbursement, and payroll overtime is what it started with. Now we're looking at anomalies in payroll transactions, whether it's overtime or any other type of payment that seems unusual, looking for fraud, waste, and abuse. or error that's gone undetected. This will be a new process that probably the city hasn't seen, a continuous auditing program where you will have small micro reports and then an annual report of the prior micro reports. So we'll see how that goes and again, determine the need to continue the program as risk is mitigated and management builds their competencies in the financial department. All right, next slide, please. And do we have Mike Sandstrom in the virtual meeting? He was going to speak to this slide.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Ginger. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the Audit Committee. Purvis Gray and Company appreciates this opportunity to provide an update to the Audit Committee in our review of the Workday ERP system configurations of the controls enforcing segregation of duties, logical segregation of duties, and workflow authorizations, including a review of Workday controls that govern which personnel can view certain sensitive information. Our update today will be brief. As part of our audit of the city's financial statements, we perform a review of IT controls for the purpose of determining the timing and extent of our audit procedures we perform in support of our opinion on the city's financial statements. As a result of our procedures, we may note opportunities for the city to further mature and refine IT controls. We will incorporate our recommendations for any opportunities for improvements regarding Workday controls, along with any other IT general control improvements in our report upon completion of the 2021 financial statement audit engagement, which is still in progress, all of which will be presented to city management, including the city internal auditor. For the most part, the slides before you are the same as our last report. It outlines the scope of this objective and outlines the various business processes we are reviewing, which continues on the second slide, and the nature of the possible kinds of recommendations for opportunities for improvement. Again, we appreciate this opportunity, and this completes our update report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, Audit Committee members. Normally, this part of the external audit report is confidential and it's reported directly to management. But because internal audit was going to also do a user access review at the same time, we deferred to Purvis Gray. We can track those findings even though they are confidential. We'll track the progress of management's remediation of any issues that might be presented to them. All right. Next slide, please, Marie. And next slide. Enterprise IT governance. This periodic monitoring risk is performed by our IT audit manager. I'll just read what he has noted here. He attends the Enterprise IT Governance Committee meetings, so we're a non-voting member, meaning we don't make decisions, but we are given the opportunity to listen to how management is addressing risks, and we can challenge those risks or management's assumptions. So we appreciate being included in that committee and in that partnership. Most recently, they had a discussion of IT governance structure, cybersecurity, policy, and guidelines. Risks that our office continues to monitor are the cybersecurity audit phase 2, policy governing the use of surveillance technology. We don't have one yet. Citywide data privacy and data protection. That policy is being strengthened now. So we'll continue to monitor those risks while we are still tracking them as high risk. All right, Culture Corner, please. We have Ms. Laura Gretz, HR Director, will come and give a brief update on the next slide, please, on the culture assessment recommendations that management has been working on.
Thanks, Ms. Bigby. Good afternoon, Mayor and Audit Committee members. So just a brief update on the items that are outstanding on the culture assessment report. So one of the items is leadership training. One of the recommendations was to create an executive coaching program and reestablish leadership training that had existed previously. Both of those items are currently in the development phase, so we're working on continuing to build those out. Number 3, the policy management framework. This is actually something that's being spearheaded through the city manager's office, but obviously HR is working very closely in that process as well. Work group has been created to kind of take a look at this. The group is looking at a couple of things. One is establishing a process for the way we create, maintain, and update our policies. And the second piece is around creating a central repository for all of our policies, procedures, practices. You can't even imagine how many there are throughout the city. So we're looking for ways to make that easier for all of our employees to navigate and use. The 4th item is around internal conflict resolution. So last year there was an initial Train the Trainer program that was initiated to help train our employees to become trainers on how to handle conflict resolution. We're doing a second wave of those Train the Trainer classes. Those are taking place the end of this month and into July. And we'll continue to do those Train the Trainer trainings and then roll that out to the entire organization. We're also in the process of developing a formal process that our employees can follow in that arena. And the final item is around employee suggestions. Our strategy planning and innovation department is handling this item. They are working on a draft, which the leadership team actually had an opportunity to participate in kind of putting together some ideas around what this might look like. That's currently being refined, and the group will be taking that to our charter officers shortly for them to review as well. Any questions?
Question? Yep, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Gretz. And I don't believe Mr. Monk was here at the time. I wanted to say a few words about why this appears to be different. These aren't formal audit issues. We did a collaborative project, so a non-audit service with management when we did the culture assessment, and the Audit Committee and City Commission requested that we report quarterly on how we're doing on these recommendations. So we really appreciate management update and continuing to work on these items. Now I'll turn it over to Ms. Anderson, Assistant City Auditor, to give you an overview of our audit issue follow-up program, which we implemented in May 2020. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. Committee members, excuse me. All right, so let's go to the next slide, please. Next one, please. All right, you're probably all familiar with this internal audit issue follow-up program matrix we have there, the flow chart. It shows our process for assigning risk to audit issues and how we come back after the audit, after the report, and we follow up on management's progress with remediating the issue that was identified. Next slide, please. This table here, we're going to talk about this in depth. This is where we're reporting for each quarter, the number of audit issues closed to open, on hold, and reopened. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Bigby for the next slide.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I worked on closing these audit issues around the Evergreen Cemetery audit we did. I think we reported in September 2021. All 4 issues have been closed. So management has completed their inventory of the old yard and procured a new lot inventory management system. Management has updated the cemetery standard operating procedures with the required elements. They have enhanced procedures to include oversight and monitoring of cemetery operations and financial transactions. And they have strengthened their user access controls for their financial system. This management team was amazing because they were just giving us all of the support that we needed. It didn't take a lot of effort to close out these issues. We have Ms. Leslie Ladendorf, the Assistant Director of Parks, Recs, and Cultural Affairs. Ms. Ladendorf?
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner, and Committee Member Monk. I just want to start by saying I wanted to thank their team. I was the Assistant Cultural Affairs Manager during this process, so the Division of Cultural Affairs inside Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs is a very event-based, and so we were constantly having to go up against events and the actual activity of Evergreen while doing our audit, and they were very flexible with us. So I just wanted to say thank you to their team for all the help that they provided and the flexibility that they gave us while we were going through this process. One of the great things about this has been that we have come out of this with some best practices. While a lot of us had some financial background, I think the guidance that they provided and the direction they provided to give us those best practices that we can now not only use in Evergreen, but in the Cultural Affairs Division and in Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, it can be scaled up for all of those areas so that we can better monitor and document. And I think that's the biggest part of the best practices, was documenting that we were monitoring. So while we were doing a lot of monitoring, we weren't documenting that we were doing that work. So those things came out of that. And we are working towards our cemetery database. I can't talk about it because we are in the cone of silence. But it is being worked on, and we're very excited to see how that database will help us with our future inventories as we move forward. And then we're also looking at our new recreation, which is the total department's operating software, to help us with more of those monitoring issues and reporting, which is something we were lacking a little bit with our current system. So other than that, I just want to thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, committee members. Okay, the next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, this is also we had a closed audit issue for citywide succession planning audit. There are two issues, recommendations and action plans. This is number 2. Management created a citywide succession planning policy, which was approved by the City Commission on June 2nd, 2022. So that one is closed. Next slide, please. This is body-worn camera compliance audit. All issues are closed for that audit. So we did see what management accomplished. They did enhance their tracking and monitoring controls over body-worn camera videos. They enhanced internal controls around monitoring the new hires to ensure they have body-worn camera training. And then they enhanced internal controls by ensuring that a notification process was in place so that people could be removed, their accounts could be deactivated when they separated from employment or changed jobs. Next slide, please. The next slide is GRU badge access and physical key management audit, which is a confidential audit. The content of that audit report was confidential. Some of the confidential audit issues have been closed, remaining issues are in progress. One of the issues is past due. However, management is implementing a new action plan, and we expect it to be closed by next audit committee. All right, I'm going to turn the next slide over to Ginger. Ms. Bigby. Excuse me.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. So for the past due issue that Ms. Anderson just spoke of, we feel pretty comfortable that they're still on track because we saw the work that they're engaging in and their plan. So we do think that that will still be remediated by next September. So if not, we will report otherwise to you in September. Audit issues on hold. There are 4 audit issues on hold. That's not a normal process in audit issue follow-up. The reason why we're putting these on hold is because they require financial services to help remediate these issues. And financial services has asked us to just hold for a while because they have extreme efforts going into the external financial statement audit, getting Workday up and running. It's a pretty big lift, and it's not going to be done in a couple of months. So we can hold these temporarily, even if it's a year or so. As soon as they're up and running, we should be able to get these issues closed. So there's only 4 out of all of our open audit issues. We've placed these 4 on hold. That's the citywide succession planning audit had 2 issues. One issue is closed, the new policy. And then this section involves implementing the program, which will rely heavily on Workday data. The GPD property and evidence cash audit issue number 1 had 2 components. The police management side has been closed, but there's another component that requires collaboration with financial services. So they should be able to address that as soon as they're in a position to do so. The Colliers International contract requires, this issue number 1 requires financial assistance, so that one's on hold. And then, of course, the general government internal control over financial reporting. As management addresses the Auditor General findings, I am confident that our audit report issues will be addressed at the same time. So we won't follow up until all of that is ready. Affirmative action plan. Next slide, please.
All right, for this audit, the audit issues have been reopened. This is for the affirmative action plan audit, which was released in February of 2020. Okay, so the departments have not been able to get these issues closed. So we asked them to kind of just start over by redrafting an action plan and revising the due date. So we're holding management to these due dates, which are the end of this year, and we'll follow up at that time. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So this is not a desirable state to be in, of course, but with all the changes in processes, changes in leadership, changes in staffing, we said, okay, we need to start over. What is the action plan? What can you do today to get this program up and running and address the risk that was identified in the original audit report? So they tweaked their original action plans to fit today's environment, today's technology, and that's what these 2 action plans represent. We're going to hold them to these due dates. So hopefully when we come to you in September, they'll have good progress, and in December, we will be able to close these issues. All right, next slide, please. This is just an update from our fraud hotline. We had a little uptick in cases. We have 2 open and had closed 8 since the last audit committee. Next slide, please. You can, Marie, if you could skip through to page 31, please. So pages 29 and 30 are a summary of the Auditor General 18 findings, and page 31 is a new report that you asked for. This is management's quarterly update on the 18 findings. So as concisely as we could report, management has the 18 findings split over 2 pages, and they're providing comments in the far right column. The middle column shows everything in progress, and you'll notice on page 32, only 1 item has not been started yet. That's the employee background screenings, and they have 18 months, keep in mind, to get to all of this. And then 1 item, the last item, the GRU travel, has been remediated. Management is here if you have any specific questions.
Any questions from the committee about the progress report? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then we can skip through. We have the external audit findings that haven't changed from prior years. The current general government audit is underway, so we will report those updates when that report is issued. And then the Baker Tilly audit of the utility financial statements had no internal control deficiencies to note, so this slide will stay the same until the next audit. So Marie, that takes us to wrap up in page 39, and that is it. If you have any questions for us, Mayor and Audit Committee members?
Well, thank you, first of all, for always appreciate the quarterly update, and I want to thank first you and your team, and then all of the other people, agencies, and departments within the city that helped participate in these. It's good to see so many that have been closed out. We obviously remain alert to the ones that have either been reopened or remain open. But a lot of effort's gone into this, and I mean it's a recurring theme that I know the manager is as relieved as the committee, I think, that we're getting to a place in our finance department to both significantly stabilize that department and be able to do our sort of daily functions as a city, but also address some of these issues and get them closed. A lot has been waiting on that, and the Workday integration all that's starting to come together. So I think we remain cautiously optimistic that by the end of the year, a lot of these will be finally resolved, and we'll get back to sort of allowing them to do their job as sort of defined. Committee members, any questions from the quarterly update? Okay, there's a recommendation to forward it to the commission for further consideration.
Thank you, sir. I move that we recommend this to the full commission.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to forward this to the full commission. Again, thank you, Ms. Bigby, and everybody else that participated in putting that report together. We'll invite any members of the public that wish to speak to this item.
May I add,
course.
the recommendation for the report included the request for the add to the audit plan, that one audit.
Oh, yes, yes.
Thank you. I actually wrote that down and I forgot, so thank you. And that we ask to add RTS incidents to the audit plan.
Good, yeah, okay. Mr. O'Brien, did you wish to speak to this item?
Sure. Hi, Brian O'Brien for the record. Thank you, Ms. Bigby, for your always detailed report. It's been 3 years since we as a community started seriously looking at these audits because of all the financial misdealings around town. And it's just amazing that it was 3 years ago today. And at that time, Mr. Poe from the mayor's seat told me, we have to get this audit in. It's due by the 30th of June. And he could not let me examine the paperwork prior to voting to pass it. Now, I'm not here to continually complain. I just want to be clear on the record. Ms. Bigby, you addressed the Purvis Gray external audit and said it's in progress. Now, my records show that the law hasn't changed as to the due date. I think it's a little bit disingenuous to the residents of Gainesville to not discuss what's going on here. I know that it has come up before, but we'd at least like an update on.
Yeah, Mr. Brown, if you could direct your comments to me.
Why are we at the 15th of June and you're saying it's in progress with no further comment? I do have a couple other questions. The more or less observations. The culture assessment that was instituted after Mr. Poe and his henchman Feldman ran off Tanisha Marshall and Sarah Vidal Finn, and still no progress has been. No substantial progress in getting that culture assessment, which I expect if you graduate off that dais will be the best thing that ever happened to the culture. The issue's on hold. Financial services needs time. I'm just curious at this point. The last we were told in the memo is that the financial statements for the past 2 years prior to 21 were not reliable, and that the numbers were incorrect. How are the citizens of Gainesville to know that their money is safe and accounted for if I hear you kicking deadlines end of the year, end of the fiscal year, end of next year before we get out of these problems? Who is watching the till at this point? And the last meeting that we had, you gave a full-throated acknowledgement that there was no fraud. And I would like to know how you know that. And I would like you to share that with the residents of Gainesville if there is no fraud and there's no money missing.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I think we can answer your questions. Ms. Bigby, I think you were very clear and transparent at our last meeting about the status of the external audit, and it is in progress. We made no statement to indicate anything other than we know it's going to take longer, and we're very clear about that. We're putting absolutely everything that we have towards getting it both completed, but also completed with the utmost validity to the report. So if you want to reiterate those comments that you made at our last meeting, that would be fine, but I think we've been very transparent about that.
feel free if you would like to add anything. Ms. Rasnick and her team are in there in the day-to-day activities, working double duty. So they know the difficulties in getting the general ledger valid. Then they have to produce all the financial reports that the external auditors need to do the audit. That process is just taking more time. This year is going to be later. They think next year will be later too, and then we should be on time to report probably March thereafter. So it's just a process because of the enormity of the tasks. But we have a great team. We're hiring new people. We have a new finance director. We have a new controller. We have Ms. Rasnick's team. So we have seen no indication that it's not on track. Everything looks good to move forward, but it will be late this year and probably next year.
And we've shared that information with the
We've
state.
shared that.
They are very aware of where we are in the process. Ms. Curry, did you want to add anything to that?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you for acknowledging me. I'm just going to add what you just said. When we reported back in January, or maybe a little later than that, we did share that it would be late. And what we're doing now, hopefully Purvis Gray will be in here first week or so in July and be finished at the end of September. That is what we're planning towards. It is late. We did acknowledge that earlier, and it will probably be late next year.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that wish to speak to this
How about
item?
the fraud question?
That was a statement, not a question, but thank you. Your comments were noted. Thank you. Anybody else here to speak to this item? Okay, motion then to forward to the full commission as well as adding the one item to the audit plan. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you very much again for the team for producing that quarterly update. It is very helpful. We now invite any members of the public that want to make any comments on anything that was not on our agenda today to come forward. Okay, do we have any member comment?
Do you want more comment?
I just said yes. If there's any members of the public that wish to comment on anything not on our agenda.
I'm hard of hearing, I'm sorry.
Okay, we actually have a device that can help with that. Just let us know and they can bring it around for you.
I'm not down to devices yet, but.
It's just headphones. It's a pair of headphones.
Thank you for offering, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
The question that I have for the auditors, the audit committee, the attorney, the residents of Gainesville would like to know if any monies have been detected as missing or any activities have been detected as fraudulent during this reconstruction of the books. Can you give
Is that
me
your only,
those?
well, you have 3 minutes. We'll get to your questions at the end. If that's your only
Okay.
question, that's fine.
No, the other question is, I would like to see what the activities are, and I've requested a public records request from Ms. Bigby several times, and it's gone through, the proper channels by email, and all of a sudden I'm receiving no responses whatsoever, and that's very unlike Ms. Bigby. She's very dedicated and competent public servant. I would like to know who's blocking her from answering me. The questions that I have are the billings from Purvis Gray and the billings from CRI, the auditor that's supposedly reconfiguring your books at this moment. I would like to know, I'd like to see their billings. I would like to see their detailed billings. Because the complete faith and confidence of the citizens of Gainesville is in their hands at this moment. And nobody in this town has any idea how much money's been stolen. So those are the essence of my comments, and I appreciate that Mr. Monk he's the accountant. I don't have any degrees in accounting. I was in construction, and we kept track of a lot of complicated accounting systems, but I always had a right hand that ran that. So given that we know that the funds have been kited around and run amok, and that grants and all kinds of things were not reported on correctly, you you were in charge when 5 different auditors were pushed through this city, and half of them got gaslighted out of here, including Carlos Holt, who you unceremoniously fired and gaslighted his family. It was very unfair, and it's very sad. The citizens of Gainesville don't want leadership like that in here. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bigby, a lot to unpack there. I mean, I'll introduce the first question by saying that all findings of fraud are brought through this committee. So any findings that we've had would have been identified had you had identified them. But is there anything you want to add to that? And then if you can follow up, the public records request, I'm not aware of those. And so that's something that I think either our clerk's office or the person responsible for or in possession of the records can follow up with. But if you want to, I think the first question is, what fraud has been identified?
So any fraud that comes to our attention, we perform a fraud investigation and a fraud example. First of all, local government financial statement fraud is very unusual. It's not impossible, but very unusual. We have no indication at all that that's ever happened. Management now has a fraud risk management policy they have to comply with. So if they identify fraud during their work, they have to let us know. Or they report it to HR, who has to let us know. So that has not come to my attention. We always look for fraud when we conduct our audits. So as we continue our audits going forward, fraud risk is always a risk that we look for. If we do find fraud, we bring it to the attention of the elected officials. We can't report anything while it's in progress, but once something was closed, you would see the report. So we have not had fraud in the general government finance department since I've been here. It doesn't mean there isn't any, but the risk is always there, but we look for it in our audits, and we audit the highest risk areas. For public records requests, I don't have any in my bucket. I cannot respond to requests for financial data because I don't own the financial systems, so the finance department has to respond to financial requests. But anytime we get a request for internal audit information, we turn it around right away. So I don't have any in my bucket right now for internal audit material.
Okay. But the clerk's office can certainly follow up if you, Madam Clerk, want to just refer that question to Ms. Gainey, and then we can do a search for that request and see who the responsible, who the person responsible for the document is. All right, thank you, Ms. Bigby. Do we have any member comment? Mr. Monk, go ahead.
The first issue that I became aware of and concerned about when I was appointed to this committee basically dealt with the level of talent in the finance department and generally the fiscal issues and the people that were on board at the time and their credentialing or lack thereof and the talent level. And I want to just congratulate the city on the new hires that they have made. I think that it indicates a change in the right direction to bring in the talent that is needed to make sure things are done right, done timely, and my hope is that this is the start and you'll continue in the same direction and complete. You still have openings to fill, but I think you're off to a very good start, and I'm very impressed when the discussion that I had the other day with your new auditor, and looking forward to seeing her work and where your department is going.
Thank you, Mr. Monk, and I want to throw a few kudos over to Ms. Gratz, who is now our permanent human resources director, and she has made that department her priority, and so it's starting to show, and that's been no small feat. So, Ms. Gratz, thank you very much for taking the bull by the proverbial horns on this, and it's making an impact already. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Monk. Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say welcome and thank you. Thank you for joining our team in our city, and I hope that this is a sign of the things to come as we build up all of the needs that we have, that we get more talented people to join the already talented people. But I'm very excited to see, and I kind of like this introduction system. We did hire some great people. May we show you. So if that happens, Ms. Gritz, feel free to just bring them onto meetings, introduce them to the community. I would love to see that. It brings a little cheer to the meetings. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. So thank you, everyone, for the hard work that went in the preparation of this meeting. Our next meeting will be on September 6th for our next update. So we'll look forward to that. And with that, seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned.